and welcome to Wandering Through Wayne's World. You know, everybody who's been with me a long time knows how much I love music, and I love all kinds of music, almost. I'm not a big classical or opera fan, but I love everything else. Listen to a lot of country. I listen to a lot of 60s, 70s, and 80s music, and today music seems to blend together, and it's always been the calming factor in so many people's lives. With me is Nashville recording artist Raquel Renner. Did I get it right?
Yep, you got it right.
And she's an interesting case because she has learned in today's world that being signed to a label is good, but not the most important thing.
True. Absolutely correct.
So how long are you singing?
So I've been singing for about 25 years, I'd say.
So you started when you were 4?
Yes.
29. And you don't just sing, you write.
I do. I write both music and lyrics. I dabble with a little piano, so I'm able to do that. And it's been just an incredible honor to be able to work and record in Nashville and in South Florida, which is my home. And I like to write. I'm up in the middle of the night with these ideas ticking in my brain, and you have to put them on paper.
And I get that because in what we do here, I'm up at night. When something comes to me, I have to write it down. I'm not a songwriter. I've written a lot of poems, but I'm not a songwriter. And I guess that's kind of like being a songwriter.
Well, yeah, it definitely is. I mean, poetry definitely lends itself to good, songwriting, good lyrics. So I started off writing poetry when I was young. Yes. And I used to be just an excellent creative writer. And creative writing was my favorite class in school. And from that, I kind of took that into a songwriting career.
It's interesting because I couldn't even pass English in high school. Okay, and
I loved English.
Okay, science and math was my thing. And here I am, 20 years talking on the air and entertaining people, I hope. And most of you, again, who follow me, it's my first time back since open heart surgery. And
yes, that's
I'm
awesome.
blessed to have you on air with us.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so
I'm blessed.
You decide music. What was your inspiration?
I mean, I feel like I came out of the womb singing. My parents, when I was a little child, anytime there was music on, I would just get up and start singing and dancing, and they couldn't really control me. And so they encouraged all the music instruction they could possibly give me, and encouraged me to get involved in chorus in school and to get some vocal training, and that's what I did. And it just was always a part of me. I don't remember a time in my life when I didn't sing.
And that's interesting because I've interviewed many entertainers, and I always ask, did your parents support you in what you do?
Yes.
And that's always, it's a tough situation because in the entertainment industry, there's this little space where people go and are very successful.
Yeah.
And then there's this space here, and then there's this space here. A successful musician for me is somebody who can play music and doesn't have to have a regular job. Okay?
Yes.
And we've been through a number of those. We've dealt with a number of those, which is kind of cool. What were you what type of music do you sing?
So I started off kind of singing like R&B, jazz. I actually recorded a jazz CD called Wait For Me, and it was all jazz standards. And I did that back in 2009. And I recorded down in West Palm Beach at Saturn Sound Studios. And it was interesting. And the reason I did that initially was because I was singing in restaurants with either a classical guitar player or a piano player. And people were asking me to record a CD. So I did the jazz standard CD, and it's beautiful, but I realized it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I mean, I grew up on a 10-acre farm, and with, hearing my dad and mom playing, Hank Williams Sr. and Charlie Rich and people like that. And I just, country was just in my blood. And I didn't realize I wanted to be a country music artist until after I had done the other genres of music.
So how long are you doing country?
So I've been doing country now for about 10 years.
Okay,
only.
so you have seen some amazing changes within the industry and within the genre.
Yes, and I lived in Nashville. I had written some original stuff, and I recorded a music video of a song that I wrote called Cry, and it was getting a lot of exposure. So I got a phone call from somebody out of Nashville saying, would you want to record in Nashville? Well, of course I said yes. So I headed out to Nashville to record with a small independent record label called Skytones Records. And it was very, very well produced, but it wasn't really my stuff. Cry was mine. And that had nothing to do with Nashville. I did that here. But the other songs that are, still currently on iTunes, those were given to me. They were in like a database of music that you could choose from.
Okay.
So I had a great time doing it. One of the songs actually charted really well on a small independent Nashville chart. And it ended up at number 16 on this chart called the Power Source Country Music Chart. So it was playing in full rotation in the southern states, and I moved to Nashville and got just a little bit of notoriety, not a lot, certainly, but people were starting to kind of recognize me and saying, hey, aren't you that girl that sings, this song? And it was just really an incredible experience.
So how many songs have you written?
I've probably written over 100 songs in my lifetime. Produced, probably less than 24. So,
well, people don't understand that producing a song is quite costly.
Oh, it's so expensive. And the conundrum for a starving artist is that you don't make very good money as an artist, but yet it costs so much money to record a song. So unless you know someone that has a studio or somebody that wants to do a favor for you, or maybe they want to collaborate, you fork out a ton of money to do it.
Yep.
And
people,
it's expensive.
What's really interesting about the industry is if you're out playing a gig, okay, the money is made on merch.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's true.
That's if people know you and you have T-shirts and at a point in time CDs.
Yes.
That's where the money was made. Mm-hmm. Today, CDs, they're not out.
No, they're not. Vinyl has come back.
Right. Okay.
This is so cool to me.
Okay, but CDs, people still buy CDs. One is because not everybody has a brand new car. Okay, and sells CD players.
Sure.
My car probably is really old. It probably has an 8-track. I'm not sure. But I know it's old. But,
that's really old school.
Yeah. But people buy CD. The nice thing about having CD at an event is that people will buy it.
Yes.
If you sign it.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So having a signed CD will sell.
Yes.
Okay.
It definitely does.
So you've seen all these changes in the industry.
I have tremendous changes.
What do you see coming about?
Gosh, the relationship with the artist and the label is deteriorating because artists have become more savvy. They're more intelligent, and they know they don't need the label's backing to produce fantastic music. And the labels still want to charge, all this money, ridiculous, exorbitant amounts of money to record a track. And yeah, it's excellent quality, but they're now rivaled with these private entities that are producing music for artists, and artists doing their own social media now and getting advertising dollars and for having a lot of views and having a really popular YouTube page, monetizing on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I see I don't really see the demise of the record labels necessarily, but I think there's going to be a major transition, whether it's some kind of acquisition between YouTube and some of the major labels. Something's going to go down. And what I have noticed is that now labels are looking for artists that already have their own social media built very well. Even these television shows like The Voice, they're putting people on these shows that they're looking at their social media and saying, right. Oh, this girl has 15,000 followers. we're going to let her get on the show because that's going to help our ratings. So really, the artists are doing all the work for themselves now.
Yep.
And it's making it easier on these record labels because they don't have to do as much work and they don't have to invest as much financially to promote, since the artists are doing it, ourselves.
And we talk about it. We talk about
It's crazy.
if I was a musician and I was terrible,
Yeah.
okay, and on my YouTube video of my song that I send out to clubs, I have 3,000 views, and you're excellent, and you have 30 views,
Yeah.
the club's going to hire me.
Yes, that's so true. It seems so unfair, but it is all about your following and your, saleability.
Right.
You have to really be marketable, and that's what they want. So they will choose the person that's less talented, that has the bigger following, over those other people that are really super talented. Maybe they don't have the finances to promote themselves. I mean, I know that was my conundrum, for many, many years. I didn't have the financial backing. I mean, I come from a middle, upper class family, but certainly my parents aren't super wealthy. And I just didn't have, carte blanche. I didn't have, the money and the backing.
We deal with a lot of musicians, and they come to me and say, hey, I need a guitar player for this song. And it's $300-400 right there.
Right there.
Not counting studio.
Sure.
So if you're getting a guitar player or drummer, you're already at $1,000.
Yes.
And then you haven't even produced anything yet.
And you're making, as an artist, you're making, if you're a duo, you're making roughly about $300, $150 each. If you're a full band, you're lucky in small towns, especially. If you're making $1,000 as a full band. And in Nashville, you get paid $10 an hour. That is what musicians get paid to play at the honky tonks. They get paid $10 an hour. I've done it. And we would go around with a big tip bucket in the middle of, in between sets, and beg for money from people because we were making so little. I mean, because think about the saturation in the Nashville market.
Right, everybody wants to play.
I mean, there's too much supply and not enough demand.
Well,
so they can pay these players $10.
You pay them $10, and they're sad. In hopes that they get discovered.
Sure. Okay. That's what it's all about. And so they all have day jobs. We all had day jobs. But, I remember back in the day seeing Jason Aldean in the honky tonks playing music and thinking, that dude is so good. Like, there's no way he's not going to be famous.
Jason Aldean, was at a concert, with, this is before he was famous.
Yeah.
There was probably 40 to 50 people there. And when he was done, he came out by himself, carried a box of CDs.
Yeah.
Okay, and sold his CDs. He was a nobody when I first met him.
Yeah.
And Luke Bryant also.
Yeah.
And again, I've met so many people, and I love to see people succeed.
I do too.
Okay, it's a great feeling.
I hope we all win. It's not about who's better.
Well, I hope we all win. Competition. I see it as co-opetition.
Yeah.
Okay, the people that are jerks, I don't work with.
More people should see it like that.
Okay, and I like to see people succeed, and it's a feather in my cap. It makes me feel good. It's a feather in their cap. It becomes a win-win.
It definitely does, and it makes your life better to help other people. And unfortunately, I still have run into situations with female artists and even male artists in my town. Like, we live in this small little town. I live in a small little town. I divide my time between here and Nashville. But this is in Nashville, and this is the story for a lot of artists all around the U.S. You live in a small town. And there's such competition and this, these females acting like divas, and they don't want to promote each other. And I promote everybody. I'm a big proponent of promoting my fellow female and male artists, and I try to, on my page, because I have a really good following, I promote these other artists and try to help them. And yet a lot of times they won't do it for me, but I don't care. That's not why I'm doing it. Right. That's not what I'm about.
And you can't be about that.
There's still that kind of jealousy and competition, and it's a shame, but that's just the way life is. And
we're getting at the top of our time. How do people find you? Website?
How do they find me? Yep. So you can find me on YouTube. It's Raquel Renner. You can find me on iTunes under Raquel Renner. You can Google Raquel Renner.
RaquelRenner.com.
It's RaquelRenner.com, yes. And we just launched, we're just about to launch, a brand new website.